In our headlines on this Friday, September 26th, here in South Korea. At the New York Stock Exchange, President Lee Jae-myung hosts the Korea Investment Summit, urging heavyweight financiers and business leaders to invest in Korea following his official UN-related engagements. And US President Donald Trump claims South Korea's $350 billion investment is an upfront payment, despite ongoing bilateral negotiations dampening investor sentiment on the local bourse, which closed down on this Friday. Meanwhile, here on the Korean peninsula, a North Korean merchant vessel violates the de facto inter-Korean sea border, the Northern Limit Line, earlier on this Friday, before retreating after warning broadcasts and warning shots from the South Korean military. President Lee Jae-myung became the first South Korean president to host an investment forum at the New York Stock Exchange. Our presidential office correspondent Song Yoo-jin starts us off.
This is South Korean President Lee Jae-myung ringing the iconic opening bell at the New York Stock Exchange on Thursday. At the world's largest stock exchange by trading volume and the oldest on Wall Street, President Lee hosted the Korea Investment Summit, where he urged heavyweight financiers and business leaders to invest more in South Korea. The key topic was the so-called Korea discount, a term describing how South Korean companies are often undervalued compared to their global peers. President Lee cited geopolitical tensions on the Korean peninsula as a major cause.
남북 대치, 군사적 대치 때문에 오는 불안정성, 이로 인한 저평가, 휴전 중인 나라인데 또 군사 밀도도 높고 혹시 무슨 일 생기지 않을까?
Highlighting North Korea's advances in missile technology, Lee emphasized his three-stage roadmap of nuclear suspension, reduction, and eventual denuclearization. He once again described U.S. President Donald Trump as the only one capable of brokering such a deal, a peacemaker, while pledging that South Korea will act as a pacemaker supporting the process. The president also outlined measures to make South Korea's investment environment more transparent and trustworthy, including stricter action against stock manipulation and unfair trading practices, and further amendments to the Commercial Act to better protect minority and individual investors. Regarding foreign investors, Lee pledged to resolve issues that many of them see as barriers to entry.
핵심은 역시 이제 요게 환거래 시장 문제라고 제가 들었습니다. 그 문제도 저희가 아주 빠른 시간 내에 저희가 또 해소할 생각입니다. 지금 외국환 거래 시장도 지금 시간 제한이 꽤 있는데 그 시간 제한을 거의 없애는 방향으로.
Currently, South Korea's foreign exchange market operates from 9 a.m. to 2 a.m. the following day, and the Korean won lacks a full offshore trading market. While Lee is the fourth South Korean president to host such an investment event in New York, he was the first to hold it at the New York Stock Exchange. So, with this, President Lee has wrapped up his trip to New York, which focused on diplomacy and economic outreach. He will return home on South Korea's presidential jet on Friday. Song Yoo-jin, Arirang News, New York.
Indeed, the president's UN agenda has come to a close and he is now on his way back home. And while we await his return, Arirang's Yoon Jung-min walks us through his diplomatic engagements over the past few days.
The highlight of President Lee Jae-myung's week-long U.S. trip was his first speech at the 80th United Nations General Assembly.
저는 오늘 세계 시민의 등불이 될 새로운 대한민국이 국제사회에 완전히 복귀했음을 당당하게 선언합니다.
He was referring to Korea's recovery from the martial law incident last December as he introduced a new initiative to end confrontation on the Korean peninsula.
교류, 관계 정상화, 비핵화, 즉 END를 중심으로 한 포괄적인 대화로 한반도에서의 적대와 대결의 시대를 종식하고 평화 공존과 공동 성장의 새 시대를 열어가야 합니다.
Another key takeaway was South Korea leading an open debate at the UN Security Council for the responsible use of AI at a time of growing uncertainty. No other South Korean leader has presided over the debate as chair.
대한민국은 글로벌 책임 강국으로서 AI가 인류의 지속 가능한 미래를 만드는 훌륭한 도구가 될 수 있도록 국제사회와의 협력을 주도하는 길에 앞장설 것입니다.
Yi's UN debut means a lot for Korea's summit diplomacy, says his national security advisor, Ri Sung-nak.
President Yi's trip to the United Nations shows summit diplomacy is now on a stable trajectory, something which has unfolded very quickly since the G7 summit right after he took office in June.
Economic diplomacy was also at the center, with Yi having met BlackRock CEO Larry Fink, American financiers, and leaders from European countries, including the Czech Republic, for economic cooperation. The president also met U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent amid the allies' stalled trade talks to lower Trump's sweeping tariffs.
This was President Yi's debut on the UN stage, a major platform for multilateral diplomacy and dialogue. As he concludes his U.S. trip, more summit diplomacy awaits the South Korean leader at home next month with APEC member economies. Yoon Jung-min, Arirang News, New York.
Meanwhile, the South Korean stock market lost ground on this Friday in response to remarks by U.S. President Donald Trump, who claimed South Korea's $350 billion investment will be an advance payment. Our Park Jun-an covers his latest comments, their ripple effects and broader implications.
U.S. President Donald Trump intensified pressure on South Korea on Thursday local time, insisting that the $350 billion investment package Seoul pledged in ongoing trade talks must be paid up front as a precondition for tariff relief. This remark, delivered during a White House signing ceremony for a TikTok deal, highlights the deepening differences of opinion in negotiations and escalates trade tensions between South Korea and the U.S. Following this announcement, South Korea's benchmark Kospi saw a significant drop of 2.4% on Friday, compared to Thursday's market close.
There's growing uncertainty over investment talks between South Korea and the U.S., especially after Trump raised the issue of an upfront payment. That pushed the $1 rate to $14.10 and weakened investor sentiment. If talks collapse, higher tariffs and volatile exchange rates could further pressure local markets.
According to a Wall Street Journal report on Thursday, U.S. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick has suggested Seoul increase the investment package beyond $350 billion, closer to Japan's $550 billion, with the U.S. looking for more of the funding to be provided in cash rather than loans. Lutnick stressed that although South Korea may not match Japan's $550 billion commitment, Seoul should accept similar terms. However, an economics professor claims that providing $350 billion in cash at present is impossible without a currency swap. And he said that immediately providing cash could harm the mutual interests of both South Korea and the United States.
People think South Korea has plenty of cash, but most of its $400 billion reserves are in U.S. treasuries, not cash. To raise dollars, South Korea needs to sell those bonds, which could shake the U.S. Treasury market. Japan would face the same situation, so it's unclear if that's good for the U.S.
Although specific terms for the investment package have not yet been agreed upon, negotiations are expected to remain difficult and could go on for an extended period. Park Jun-an, Arirang News.
In other news, a South Korean national who was detained during the ICE raid at the Hyundai plant in Georgia has been granted bail and is expected to be released soon. Now, this comes as the immigration court in Georgia held a bail hearing and granted the release of the individual in question. This person was the only one among the over 300 South Koreans detained who chose to remain in the U.S. rather than return to South Korea. The individual is said to have been in the process of obtaining U.S. permanent residency while residing in the U.S. with family. On the international front, Spain and Italy are sending naval ships to protect a coalition of aid ships sailing toward Gaza amid reports of drone assaults. Our Jae has details.
Spain and Italy are stepping up their naval presence in the Mediterranean to protect the global Samud flotilla, a coalition of aid ships sailing toward Gaza. The flotilla has come under repeated drone attacks in recent days, which organizers blame on Israel. Italy said Thursday it is sending a second naval vessel, following the deployment of a frigate after one such attack earlier this week. Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez, speaking from New York where he's attending the UN General Assembly, announced that a warship will leave Cartagena on Friday. He emphasized that international law must be respected and noted that citizens from 45 nations are part of the aid mission. The naval assistance comes as flotilla organizers reported that multiple boats were attacked by low-flying drones on Wednesday night. Passengers aboard the flotilla say drones dropped flashbangs and unidentified objects close to their vessels. Meanwhile, inside Gaza, the Israeli military has intensified its ground offensives on Gaza City. The Times of Israel reported that roughly 700,000 residents have now fled, which is around two-thirds of the city's pre-war population. However, civilian deaths continue, as 11 people were killed in a strike on a home in central Gaza. According to Gaza's health ministry, more than 65,000 people have been killed since October 7, 2023. Over in Washington, President Donald Trump said he believes a deal to end the war could be close.
We had a really great meeting. I think a lot was determined at that meeting, and I have to meet with Israel, and I have to do that also. They know what I want, and I think we can get that one done. I hope we can get it done.
According to U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff, Trump has outlined a 21-point peace plan for Gaza and the Middle East in talks with leaders of Muslim-majority nations on the sidelines of the UN General Assembly. Jae, Arirang News.
The National Assembly is poised to vote on a crucial government restructuring bill that had been stalled by a filibuster earlier launched by the opposition party. Our political correspondent Moon Hye-ryun has the latest.
A battle over the future of the prosecutor's office comes to a head today as the National Assembly prepares to vote on a government restructuring bill stalled by a PPP filibuster. The ruling Democratic Party moved to end the debate around 6:30 p.m. on Thursday, setting the stage for a vote to terminate the filibuster 24 hours later. Ending the filibuster requires a 3/5 majority vote, but with the DP supermajority, the move is all but assured. That would clear the way for a swift passage of the bill to amend the Government Organization Act. Government restructuring is a common practice for new administrations in Korea, with many pursuing such changes in the early stages of their term. The current proposal would overhaul several key agencies, including the Prosecution Service, the Ministry of Economy and Finance, the Ministry of Environment, and the Ministry of Trade. Under the new plan, the prosecutor's office will be dismantled and replaced by two new agencies to separate the investigative and prosecutorial functions of the office. The Ministry of Economy and Finance will also be divided, splitting its key functions of fiscal planning and budget allocation between two new bodies. As for the Ministry of Environment, it will be rebranded as the Ministry of Climate, Energy and Environment, taking on energy-related duties from the existing Ministry of Trade, Industry and Energy. Next in line is the DP-backed bill to amend the Act on the Establishment and Operation of the Korea Communications Commission, which the PPP has already vowed to block with another filibuster. That legislation would scrap the KCC and replace it with a new Broadcasting, Media and Telecommunications Commission. The new body would assume the KCC's current responsibilities and also take on additional media promotion functions, including the oversight of paid broadcasting. With two more contentious bills still left on the agenda and the PPP pledging to filibuster each of them, delays are expected to hit October's regular session. Moon Hye-ryun, Arirang News.
A North Korean merchant vessel violated the de facto inter-Korean sea border, the Northern Limit Line, earlier on this Friday. According to South Korea's Joint Chiefs of Staff, the ship crossed the NLL near Pyeongdo Island in the West Sea at around 5 a.m. The South Korean military issued warning broadcasts and fired warning shots in accordance with its standard operating procedure. The North Korean vessel in response retreated. The military here is maintaining its readiness posture to defend the NLL, which North Korea has referred to as a ghost line without legal grounds. The Lee Jae-myung administration has appointed its first ambassador to Japan. According to the Foreign Ministry on this Friday, Korea diplomat Lee Hyuk will be heading South Korea's diplomatic mission in Tokyo. He previously held several posts at the Korean Embassy in Japan, including Director General for Asian and Pacific Affairs. He currently chairs the Korea-Japan Future Forum. Once in office, he is expected to coordinate a potential summit between President Lee Jae-myung and Japanese Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba in the Korean port city of Busan next week. And capital Seoul has become the venue of public diplomacy this week as culture seeks to connect people beyond their national borders. Our Park Hyo-bin files this report.
Dancing, music, and shared laughter. What may look like a festival is in fact a stage for diplomacy. Unlike traditional diplomacy that centers on government negotiations, public diplomacy brings citizens themselves to the forefront of culture exchanges. And this week, Seoul has become the very meeting ground as it hosts the 7th Public Diplomacy Week under the theme Connecting the World Together. More than 30 foreign embassies and cultural centers in South Korea are taking part.
The event is more than just seeing different cultures. It allows visitors to take part, which enables a real culture exchange to happen.
At Poland's booth, a lace-making session is in full swing. Visitors carefully weave lace out of thread finer than a strand of hair. Each stitch reveals the intricacy of Polish craft, drawing curious eyes and hands into the process.
I've always liked knitting, so when I heard this was traditional crocheting from a country I didn't know well, I was curious to try. It's more fun than I expected.
Meanwhile, at the Columbia booth, vibrant music fills the air as dancers perform the traditional rhythm, kumbancha. Moments later, a workshop transforms dance into dialogue as visitors learn steps and instruments directly from the performers.
Well, culture and arts can strengthen the diplomacy between the two countries. And today we brought music, but there are several other expressions, particularly in Colombia. So what we are trying to do is have a comprehensive portfolio of cultural expressions and basically literally cross the world to show it to Korea.
By using culture and art as a medium, the event demonstrates the power of public diplomacy that transcends borders. Organizers say it proves that diplomacy is not confined to meeting rooms, but can also flourish in everyday cultural exchanges.
Public diplomacy is about two-way exchange between our citizens and foreigners in South Korea, deepening mutual understanding and allowing people to share South Korea with the world while learning from other cultures.
Public Diplomacy Week, which runs until this Saturday, proves that in today's world, culture has the power to act as diplomacy itself. Park Hyo-bin, Arirang News.
And curtains have gone up on the Dronesoccer World Cup in the city of Jeju here in South Korea, where teams from over 30 nations are competing. Park Eun-woo covers some of the action taking place in the air.
After the referee blows the whistle, 5 players on each team start to fly for their fierce battle. Unlike regular soccer matches, it's not athletes running on grass. It's these spear-shaped flying machines buzzing through the air. This drone soccer ball looks just like any other sports ball, but once you switch it on, it's now ready to take off and fly into the ring that's set way above the ground. Controlled by each pilot, the drones each have their own roles. Those in attacking position aim to shoot, and those in defense block the rings. During the game, collisions are fierce, with drones crashing to the ground. But just like human players shaking off an injury, they quickly rise again and rejoin the game. Matches that are tied even go to penalty shootouts, where one drone has just 5 seconds to score as many as it can, while another drone blocks the ring. These intense competition is happening at the world's first Dronesoccer World Cup in Jeju for 4 days through the weekend. Around 1,600 participants from 33 countries across 6 continents are taking part.
Drone is getting so popular in over the world, and then I looked into the whole game. It's a new sport, and it's really innovation, and it's so exciting.
Korean techniques are the highest level of all the world, so we came here to learn about how they play in teams, and also what material they use, because it's important how the drone is assembled.
As the birthplace of drone soccer, Korea has been dominating many of the matches, and some pilots share what's required to be a great player.
Piloting skills are the fundamentals, so I practice 4 to 5 hours a day. But as a team, communication is just as important, so we constantly shout instructions, who's attacking, who's defending during the game.
Both club members and national teams continue to compete, with the country versus country tournament narrowing down from the round of 16 all the way to the final. The top 3 teams will be able to win tens of thousands of dollars in prize money. As the World Cup shows how far drone technologies has flown, drone soccer may be the next game to really soar as it takes flight from Korea to the world. 박건우, 아리랑 뉴스, 전주.
This is The World Now, bringing you the latest stories from around the globe. In France, a Paris court has sentenced former President Nicolas Sarkozy to 5 years in prison for criminal conspiracy related to campaign funding from Libya. This is the first time a modern French head of state faces actual incarceration. On Thursday local time, a Paris criminal court found Sarkozy guilty of criminal association in a plot involving his aides and Libyan officials to solicit funds from then Libyan leader Muammar Gaddafi for Sarkozy's successful 2007 presidential campaign. The court sentenced him to 5 years in prison. Sarkozy, who served as president from 2007 to 2012, described the verdict as a national humiliation and vowed to appeal. However, he will have to spend time behind bars regardless of the appeal, as a court ruled on exceptional gravity grounds. 2 close associates were also convicted. The start date has not been set yet. Also in Europe, another wave of drone activity forced airports in Denmark to close. Officials say the drones are a hybrid attack intended to spread fear. Danish authorities said on Thursday that Aalborg Airport was shut down for 3 hours late on Wednesday due to unauthorized drone activity. Billund Airport, Denmark's second largest, was also closed for an hour. Drone sightings were also reported near Esbjerg, Sønderborg, and the Skrydstrup Air Base, home to F-16 and F-35 jets. The airports reopened early on Thursday after safety checks. Danish Defense Minister Truls Lund Poulsen described the incursions as coordinated and sophisticated, calling them a systematic and deliberate hybrid attack. He said multiple drone types were used, suggesting the operation was planned by a professional actor. Justice Minister Peter Hummelgaard added that the intent is likely to create fear and division and to test Denmark's response capabilities. This is the second such incident in Denmark this week, following a drone-induced shutdown at Copenhagen Airport earlier. Protesters gathered in Mexico City on Thursday to demand transparency regarding the disappearance of 43 Ayotzinapa students in 2014 to mark the 11th anniversary of the incident. The crowd, consisting of parents, students, and activists, called on the defense secretary to release 800 pages of Army records related to the events of September 26, 2014. On that day, around 100 students from a teacher's college were on their way to a protest when they were intercepted by police. Clashes with the authorities led to 6 people being killed by police gunfire. 43 students went missing after the shootings, with eyewitnesses saying they were taken by police. The remains of 3 of the students have been found as of 2025. Finally, FIFA officially unveiled 3 mascots for the 2026 FIFA World Cup, reflecting all 3 host nations on Thursday. They're Clutch the bald eagle, representing the United States, Maple the moose, representing Canada, and Zayu the jaguar, representing Mexico. Each mascot embodies characteristics tied to its host nation, with Clutch being described as adventurous and unifying, Maple combining creativity and resilience, and Zayu symbolizing strength and agility. This will be the first World Cup with 3 host nations. FIFA president said the mascots will play a central role in the tournament's festive atmosphere. Choi Ji-hee, Arirang News.
Late heat has returned across the country. The morning temperatures were cool in most parts of the country, starting at around 15 degrees Celsius. In the daytime, the temperature in Seoul rose to 28 degrees, exceeding the average temperature for this time of year by about 3 degrees. A wide gap between morning and daytime temperatures will continue for the time being. It will rain in the Jeolla-do provinces and Jeju Island until tomorrow. About 10 to 60 millimeters of rain is forecast on Jeju Island and from 5 to 50 millimeters in Jeolla-do provinces. Tomorrow morning will start cool, below 20 degrees in most parts of the country. Daily highs will move back to 27 to 28 degrees nationwide with some cloud. Rain is expected all over the country again on Sunday. That's all for Korea. Here are the weather conditions around the world.
Those are the headlines at this hour here in South Korea. Coming up next is our daily panel session. Do stay with us.